do we actually need more stimulus right now? Because it's interesting that nothing's being passed, and there's a lot of theories as to why, but we probably don't actually need it at this moment, but we're probably going to need it well before, early next year. So talk through sort of, do we really need it right now?
If you just look at the data right now, which is obviously all trailing data, the economic recovery is continuing, and we've had this take for a little while now. Household balance sheets are probably solid on average through the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So do we need more stimulus now to keep the economic recovery going? No, we don't. What would be much more beneficial to the economic recovery at this point would be just loosening restrictions, because the money is there. There just isn't a place to necessarily spend it. That would have a much bigger impact.
Getting the economy open back up, getting people back to work. A vaccine would be awesome. Like that type of stuff would be super supportive and would require less stimulus. But post end of the year, there's still a long runway of we still have 10 million people or so that are receiving unemployment benefits. So there's going to be a lag between getting a lot of those people back to work. And we've had a number of people drop out of the workforce altogether.
Yeah. And what we're getting at here is this idea that, there are fewer people unemployed than there were in April. Obviously, we gained back about half the jobs that were lost, but you still have a lot of people losing their jobs right now. And the economic consequences of losing your job now are far worse than they were in April, because you're not getting the extra $600. Maybe you spent that economic impact payment you got in April because you had a job and you thought, hey, I don't need this, I'll spend it. So that money's been spent. So there's this sort of more sinister narrative that's developing that is, hey, by and large, yes, the situation is improving. The personal income and household balance sheets are strong, but as time goes on, if we don't get more stimulus, the people that are just now losing their jobs, their outcomes are going to be far more detrimental to the economic recovery than if you lost your job earlier. And so you go back to, do we need stimulus now? Probably not. But will we need it prior to February? Probably. Because the virus situation probably isn't going to change materially between now and February, and you're going to have a lot more people who are a lot more companies that, they didn't apply for another PPP loan because that's expired and they can't afford to keep people on their payroll, and they just have to let them go. So not right now, but yes, we will before the end of the year. And so that puts a lot of pressure on Congress to pass something pre-election, and that looks unlikely.
Right. And as we think about the idea of how the stimulus could be deployed, there are some concerns about the unemployment, and we're going to pull up another chart here, but some of this unemployment is going to become permanent. So that shift from temporary unemployment to permanent unemployment could have lasting effects and could demand more permanent stimulus, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, as the unemployment is bad for economic growth near term and long term. Permanent unemployment is far worse for near term and especially for long term. So if you have a good chunk, say at the end of this crisis, we're left with 5% unemployment, but it's primarily permanent, that would be a very bad outcome. And those folks who are permanently unemployed, a lot of times it's to no fault of their own. Maybe it's in an industry that has basically gone away. And so as they take the time to sort of retrain themselves and change their skill set, they're going to need permanent stimulus to help them through that, or else you're going to have really bad outcomes. So you can see that on the chart here, the light blue line, the number of permanently unemployed increasing far faster than prior recessions. And it probably will peak at a higher level than it did in the global financial crisis. This isn't taking into account all the people that have dropped out of the labor force completely.
Yeah.
We've had a huge reduction in the size of the labor force. And those people, they they're in bad situations as well. They're not even in a position where they feel comfortable looking for a job. And that's still a bad economic outcome. Those people are going to need stimulus as well, and the economy is going to need to recover to entice them to get back into the labor force. So all this is just bad for long-term economic growth.
Yep, absolutely.